Hi, this is Kevin Baumer, CML Deputy Director, and welcome to this week's edition of the CML Video Statehouse Report. We concluded our CML annual legislative workshop this week and heard from some of our legislative leadership as well as the governor, and had a couple of great sessions on opioids and the future of beer in Colorado. If you'd like to hear a little bit about what the legislative leadership talked about, I encourage you to check out the other video in this week's Statehouse Report. In terms of legislation that I'm working on, the question of the week is, will they or won't they, on two specific issues. Senate Bill 2, which is the broadband bill that came out of the Senate, with some unfortunate amendments that uncouple the FCC minimum broadband speed from the definition of what constitutes a broadband network in Colorado, was introduced in the House and assigned to the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee. We're a little bit concerned about that decoupling still because it would allow broadband networks to be funded at speeds that were equivalent to what was the national average in 2011. It's an issue we'll be raising when the bill is eventually scheduled in committee, and well, we don't have a lot of confidence that that will be amended to bring back that connection so that minimum speeds would be 25 megabytes down, 3 megabytes up. We at least want to point it out and make sure that the committee and the House is aware of it. We're grateful to Speaker of the House, Crisanta Duran, and House Majority Leader Casey Becker for being the sponsors of the bill, and we know that they're taking all the issues very seriously. The other will they or won't they question, well, that has to do with the future of beer in Colorado. Talked about a little bit at the legislative workshop with the panel that we had, and the question is whether or not there will be legislation this year to deal with how beer will be dealt with in 2019, when convenience stores and grocery stores that have fermented malt beverage licenses will be able to sell full-strength beer without any other change in the law. The question is whether there will be a bill, and if there is, whether or not there will be something anyone can agree on. At this point, it doesn't look good, but there's still a long way to go in the session.
Hello, this is Diane Criswell, Legislative Counsel at CML, and I've got a couple of bills to tell you about this week. The first is House Bill 1128, which comes by request of the Attorney General's office. They have suggested updates to the Consumer Protection Act, and the bill is introduced to address some of the recent data breaches, Equifax similar. And in the committee last week, governmental entities, including municipal governments, were added into these requirements. So my read so far from our members is that under current law and under our current practices, we take the protection of people's personal information very seriously. So I don't know that it would be any concerns on the policy in general, but rather we may be seeking any amendments that make it easier for us to implement the changes, considering that there's a lot of existing federal, state, and local requirements already, and that we all have kind of different software systems and services that we are using, and we're not quite sure what the implications of the committee amendments may be. So we're sorting those out now. The second bill that I'm going to tell you about today is Senate Bill 139. That's coming up for its first hearing next week. And it would limit our ability to regulate other tobacco products and nicotine products on the local level. So for us, a lot of our concerns about the state getting more involved in enforcement is not because we don't want state enforcement of cigarettes, other tobacco products, or nicotine, but rather we want to be able to do things on the local level to tailor our own response, which is oftentimes requiring these businesses to get a specific license, having them pay specific fees for our enforcement activities, and similar. This bill would prevent that in part by disincentivizing those local activities to regulate tobacco products and nicotine products by saying that if we do so, we may not get our cigarette tax share back. It also increases the state enforcement activities by requiring a state license, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but also takes money out of education and cessation programs in order to pay for those enforcement activities. So for those reasons, we are opposing the bill.
Hi, this is Morgan Cullen with the Colorado Municipal League, and we had a significant piece of legislation introduced on this Wednesday. It's Senate Bill 167, and it has to do with reform measures to Colorado's 811 Call Before You Dig program. Specifically, the bill would require, it would create a true 811 one-call system in Colorado by requiring Tier 1 membership of all facility owners throughout Colorado. It would also set up a 12-member state-appointed safety commission with broad oversight and enforcement authority over the organization. CML had some initial concerns that I think we've dealt with as far as the constitutionality of having an oversight commission that has regulatory authority over municipalities and municipal assets. And we've also dealt with some of the liability issues, specific language in the bill, and I think we've dealt with that as well. However, there is a significant cost component for municipalities that are going to be moving from Tier 2 to Tier 1 membership, and we'd love to hear from you. If any of you guys have concerns regarding this legislation as CML moves forward to take a formal position on this bill.
Hi, this is Megan Dollar, Legislative and Policy Advocate here at the Colorado Municipal League. This week, CML joined many of our municipalities, as well as the disabled community and members, and also citizens as well of many municipalities, in opposing HB 1072, which would prohibit the use of red light cameras. I'm pleased to note that that bill was postponed indefinitely, and we do thank the members of the House Transportation and Energy Committee for their no votes on that bill. Another bill that CML opposes was originally scheduled for next week. That was House Bill 1067, which is the Right to Rest Act. The bill creates rights for homeless individuals and prohibits municipalities from enacting or enforcing any ordinances that might conflict with those rights. CML is opposed to that legislation. It has now actually been moved from the calendar for next Wednesday, but we will look for the recalendering of that bill and be prepared to testify in opposition. Finally, House Bill 1089, which has to do with bail and bond reform in Colorado, is also scheduled for next week in the House Judiciary Committee. CML continues to work with the House sponsor, Representative Adrian Benavides, with hopes of amending the bill to get CML to neutral. That remains to be seen, and whether or not we will come to agreement. At this time, CML is opposed to the legislation.
Thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And if there's anything that you want to find out about, please feel free to contact us. Also, check out the links in the rest of the Statehouse Report to find out more about the bills that we're following and bills that we support and oppose.